Change Lives. I'm Habiba Chevalier, your host and producer. And my very special guest, introducing to you, Dr. Myron Towns. Hello, Dr. Towns.
Hello, Habiba.
Well, welcome.
It's so nice to be here with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you with us on the show today,
Thank you.
Dr. Towns, because we're going to be discussing with you breast cancer. And I've invited Dr. Towns here to help me with this show because he has a wealth of information to share with us on breast cancer, which ladies, and there are some gentlemen out there also that get breast cancer.
Men do get breast cancer.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
So we don't want to leave anybody out. Stay tuned. You want to hear all about it. And thank you for coming on here today, Dr. Towns. Let's start with Dr. Towns. What is cancer?
Well, cancer is basically, if I can use a metaphor, it's a bunch of tissue that's just gone berserk. It's decided to take over the world, especially the victim's world, and gobble it all up and chew it up and spit it out. Not a good thing at all. It's the principal thing that one is concerned about is how out of control is it?
Yes, I'd like to know that, and I'm sure our viewing audience as well.
And so there are very grave differences between types of cancers in terms of how out of control they can get. Some are worse than others.
Okay.
Breast cancer is, in a way, I guess we say it's all over the place. It can be not so bad, and it can be really cruel and deadly. So it's very important to have an understanding of that.
Activists talk about breast cancer and the types of treatment we can receive as a result of someone that has breast cancer.
Right.
Okay. Now, I have a niece that has breast cancer, and it's devastated her. It has devastated our entire family. Let's go a little bit more into breast cancer, since this is our topic today.
Right. It does affect, probably the main way that it affects men, men getting actually the breast cancer tumor in their own bodies is pretty rare. But of course the main way that it affects men is that men in many instances are the primary support system. If my lady gets breast cancer, then she really needs me to be on point at that time. Whether she does well or not is going to depend a lot on what kind of support she has.
Yeah, her support system.
And whether I can support a person kind of depends on whether I know what it is that I'm supporting, yeah. So what am I up against?
Okay. So they survive a lot on merely the support that they will receive from family members?
Well, that has a lot to do with it. You know, there's, I think in the 21st century, we see a lot of spiritual discussion about how you do is influenced by your attitude. So that certainly is important, but also on a more concrete note, it makes a big difference in the kinds of decisions that a person makes. If you can go left or right, you need some kind of, on one hand, advice, and I like to frame that advice word more in the realm of information. You need accurate information, you need relevant information, you don't need a lot of distractions. You know, distractions can sometimes make you feel good when you're not having a good day. You've got a little child that's going off on you.
Yeah, that's quite.
You probably want to point them to something else.
Yes.
But when you're trying to decide whether you're going to fall into a pothole or not, distraction is probably not going to be very helpful.
Well, Dr. Townsend, does breast cancer differ from other types of cancers?
It does. It does in a couple of important ways. One is, it is, you know, I won't try to rank things because that can kind of make us ignore certain things that may be at the top just because they might not be.
Okay.
But it's certainly in the top 4.
So breast cancer then is in the top 4?
Yes,
Okay.
it is not to be ignored. It's also different, as I mentioned earlier, from others in that it's kind of all over the place. Breast cancer can be just a little lump that's nothing, and it can also metastasize very early. That means it's metastasized, meaning it spreads to other parts of the body. Little pieces of it break off. And
now, what stages would it be in when it does that?
That's a late stage. We doctors like to devote a lot of attention to categorizing things that are pretty far advanced. But what you'd really like to do, and what is possible for anyone to do who's confronted with this, is to actually recognize and identify it when it's at an early stage, when it's at a low stage where you can do something about it.
Percent of survival at an early age? At
early age, the possibility of being actually literally physically cured is very high.
Wonderful.
And
so then you need to catch it early.
Yes.
You need to catch it early.
That's really half of the ball game.
All right.
There is some things, it's baseball season, or when it's baseball season we can talk about dugouts. So there are some things going on in the dugout.
Okay.
But catching it early is
Can you
what
give
you
us
really
some
want to
signs of what to look for? Say in the to catch it early enough to survive this horrible disease.
Well, there's a couple of things, and when you were asking how breast cancer differs from others, one of the ways that it differs from others that's troubling and troublesome is that a lot of breast cancer is actually inherited. So, for example, if your mother and 2 of your sisters and a couple of aunts had breast cancer, that really should be a pretty loud heads up that you need to keep an eye on things.
And get your regular mammograms.
Well,
and do the
all
preventive.
The things, all the things that
preventive.
you would do. Yes.
Okay.
And so we're going to get into those in a minute because there's a list. And they're easy to do. For some reason nowadays, hospitals and clinics can't seem to give away mammograms for free nowadays. I know that there's some reasons for that, but if you're the one that could get the mammogram, it's a good idea.
Oh, I would suggest every woman out there to have their regular mammograms, especially at a certain age. What age is that?
Well, actually, at any time after puberty, but of course you'd like to have, yes, because you know, of these things where you don't know necessarily if this is some disastrous inherited version or is this the result of some other kind of exposure. You really don't know what it is until you get down to it. So, of course, a teenager doesn't need to be having mammograms every year, but as you get older, you want to be more vigilant. So
what age
after
would
you pass
say
50,
then you should have regular, maybe yearly mammograms?
That's not a bad idea.
Okay.
We recommend that it should be done at least every other year, but the good news there is that, you know, mammogram is a special kind of X-ray.
Okay.
And X-ray technology has improved, just like the rest of the electronic age, dramatically, so that what you're being exposed to, if that's a concern for a person, what you're being exposed to have an X-ray done every year is 10, 50 times less than it was 50 years ago. You're not jeopardizing your life to have an X-ray done regularly. Especially if it's going to give you that kind of critical information. So having one done every year after you're 50, then there's another factor in there that I kind of like to joke about sometimes, and that is, you know, some people are going to live to be 50, and some people are going to live to be 100. I'm just rounding off there. But, you know, if you're 49, you might want to know which group you're in. Just so you can have some perspective on how to handle things, because if you're going to make it to 100 and you got 51 years left, that could give you some ease, but it also might encourage you to be a little bit more careful about some bad habits and things of, you know, ignoring things that would otherwise be important. And if you've only got 6 months to live, probably a real good crazy vacation is in order at that point, and
or a cruise, perhaps.
Yeah, you should just enjoy things.
Enjoy life.
Get the most out of it.
Whatever you have left of it, at least. Then, can you tell me, Dr. Towns? They sometimes say that to change a person's life, they must change what they know. So then, what would you say then? Can breast cancer be prevented with all the things we've already talked about on the show today? In your opinion, can it be prevented? And
yes, it can.
Okay.
However, it's kind of interesting in that respect that there are different kinds of prevention. What I like to focus a lot of attention on, because it's kind of difficult, it's challenging, is what we call primary prevention, which is the idea of taking a person who is not ill and does not have any problems and giving them some kind of insurance that will help them to not have any problems in the future. Taking someone, this is the best example of that, is getting a flu shot, getting immunized. We impose primary prevention on our children because we don't want them to get sick and you know, have damage to their bodies. There's also secondary prevention, and this is most seen in the form of screening. So this is where the rubber meets the road with breast cancer.
Okay.
You don't have to get a lot of other people involved once you know what you're doing in order to get breast cancer screening. Actually, the most effective form is the part you do yourself. So knowing how to do a breast exam, knowing what you're looking for is key. There's, I think I could say there's 3 keys to actually the knowledge that a person needs to have in order to do their own prevention of breast cancer. And the first is actually you have to use your eyes. If something looks funny, check it out. It's your own body. You know, if you need to just close the door and do it privately, fine. If you need to get somebody else involved, that's what the doctors
pay attention
are
to
here
your
for.
Body.
Right, pay attention. So not just eyeball, but really, as you say, focusing your attention. The other is you do need to use your hands. If you have hands, use them. This is not some kind of oddity that you're doing something improper. To actually explore your body and see is it like it is supposed to be? Are things odd?
Now, if someone maybe while they were doing this breast examination feel something, does that mean that they should, at least have it checked out?
It's a good idea to have it checked out, but also first, I think it's very helpful to actually find some way to make a note of it. Most of us have a calendar posted around our house. There's nothing wrong with putting some little sign or note or something up on your calendar. On this day, I noticed that I had a little lump here. It didn't hurt, it wasn't big. You know, it's your calendar.
Yeah, that's
you
what I
can
was
write
gonna
all the
ask you
stuff
too.
on it that you want.
If there is maybe a lump there, and maybe it does have maybe some pain associated with it, then that's maybe a definite sign to, hey, not to wait to really go and see a doctor,
This
have
is-
it checked out?
This is one of the things that doctors have the most trouble with, I think, is that people, you know, we're tough over here. We
So
we
then there
like
are
to,
some people that are in denial even after they
Well,
maybe find something and
I wouldn't call them in denial necessarily. Sometimes we're hopeful, is a way to put it.
Yeah,
We think,
that's-
okay, it's really not bothering me. It's not that bad. We don't want to be crybabies, as a kind of disparaging term, you know. And so we get a little disoriented, maybe, where we think that I'm complaining if I investigate this further. We don't want to be complainers. And so we get kind of confused. And
Okay.
of course, if somebody tells you, oh, you know, your nose is on backwards, that's going to be disorienting, and you're going to get a little confused and kind of forget some of the things that you already knew, and maybe step off in some wrong directions. So the main thing is to, I think, realize that breast cancer can be treated, and that to actually find that you have breast cancer is not the end of the world. It's not.
can you go
it's
more
not
in
hopeless.
depth with the treatment that once a person finds out, okay, I do have breast cancer, now what?
Right.
What kind of treatment do
Yeah.
you start with?
Well, you certainly would want to start with the most conservative treatment. That means the kind that's going to do the least additional damage. You don't want to start getting things whacked off and removed
Okay.
just because you can. You would really like to make changes that will not affect other things, that will not cause any kind of disfigurement or be painful.
And I know that's devastating to women.
It is
once,
devastating.
Once they have to have
If it comes
procedures,
to major
yeah,
surgery,
procedures like that
major
done,
surgery
it's- but it does save a life, though, right?
it can save your life, but also it can make you miserable. So it's very important to a person to be attentive to what's going on. It's a lot easier to save your life before it's in jeopardy than it is afterwards.
Oh, yes.
So what we really are trying to encourage people to do is a very negative thing, I suppose. Don't panic. If you feel some little lump that just popped up, you never noticed it before, this wait and see attitude may not be the best thing to do.
attitude to take.
Right, but if you are going to be a week or so before you get to an appointment where somebody can give you some expert advice, the best thing to do is start making some notes, start writing things down, or if you don't like to write, get somebody to write it down for you. Put it on your calendar and make a note of what you observed at that time when you first observed it. So then a week later when you get to your doctor's office, you can say, well, this thing was about the size of a fresh green pea a week ago, and now it seems to be more like a hackberry. It
Now,
seems
can it
to be
actually
smaller.
grow that fast? Or
They can. The thing that I guess we're taught in school or led to understand is that if something started out as a single cell where it was so small you couldn't see it with your naked eye, and it took it 20 years to get up to where you could actually feel it. The difference in the population there may be the difference between one cell and 1,000,000 cells. So if it took
Wow.
1,000,000 cells 10 years, how long is it going to take it to get to be 2 million?
okay.
Well, a lot less than 10 years, because
it's
you know,
growing
yeah, because
rapidly?
if it doubled from 1 to 2, okay, and that took a year, and then it doubled from 2 to 4, and that took another year. Well, if it's doubled all the way up from 1 to 1,000,000, it won't take it very long necessarily to go from 1 million to 2 million. It can go from being small to being large fairly quickly. But here's my focus point personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst thing that you can do at that point is panic. You really want to be able to be calm, and you really want to be able to
remain calm.
Right. You want to be able to look at what kind of advice do I need, where do I need to go, what do I need to do, and how am I going to make good decisions about the choices that I have. Because the nice thing about cancer treatment these days is we have a lot of choices. Cancer treatment is, it's not blunt and brutal anymore. Cancer treatments are very sophisticated.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the types of cancer treatments that are available, say, when you get in maybe stage 2, stage 3?
Well, even irrespective of the stages,
mm-hmm.
the use of surgery
mm-hmm.
is very helpful for a couple of reasons. One is that if you have something that is big enough to operate on,
mm-hmm.
There's a very good possibility that removing it and to get a better look at what it is may actually eliminate the entire problem.
Okay.
This is also
well, Dr. Towns, our show is just going so
flying,
fast.
aren't we?
Really, this is so interesting.
It's a big topic.
Yes, and we can go into a lot more, but we're not going to have enough time to do that today. But before we maybe get into maybe stage 4, which we will not be able to expound on, give us some contact information. You are Dr. Myron Towns.
I am.
Would you like to give us some contact
yes,
information?
Yes, you can reach me by phone at 615, that's Nashville, 562-2439, and it takes messages. I try to return them all promptly.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach me by email at T as in Towns, C as in cares,
mm-hmm.
and A as in all of us, hyphen number 2. That's just a digit, TCA2 at Clearwire, CLEARWIRE.net.
All right, wonderful.
And I'm not as diligent as I should be about my email, but I do try to respond to the phone promptly.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's great.
So there's a lot to be said about cancer. If we can get people the idea that cancer is a big, ugly word, but it's not something to panic about. There are a lot of treatment options, and the primary focus that we should all have is that there are things that we can do right up front on a regular basis. Every time you take a shower, check it out, see what it is that you're washing off here, and make sure that it's at least as good as it was yesterday, and maybe even a little better.
Absolutely awesome, because I would like to see more treatments for cancer to prevent or to
prevent the disasters.
The disasters that we hear about, and more preventive treatment being put in place as well. Don't like the word chemotherapy, and that usually comes along with stage 4. Is that correct?
No, chemotherapy is one of the things that's advanced a great deal. A lot of chemotherapy where it used to make you sick and crazy for a couple of weeks, now you may not even know that you've done anything except you had to keep an appointment. Yeah, chemotherapy is extremely sophisticated, and it's down to the molecular level.
What level do they treat with chemo? What stage,
Basically, medically, the treatment is going to begin once you have actually made a concrete diagnosis that you're sure of.
Okay.
The earlier that is, the better, because certainly the more conservative the treatment will be.
Okay.
Surgery is often a good treatment. As I gave you an example, having a biopsy might actually completely cure you just because you took out whatever it was that was bothering you, and if it turned out to be bad, it was bad, but it hadn't spread anywhere, and it's done. So surgery has its place, but it's not all there is by any stretch of the imagination. Radiation therapy sometimes can leave really no obnoxious scars. The chemotherapy is absolutely marvelous. There are other kinds of, actually even holistic interventions that work very well,
Okay.
especially for a person that has an inherited form where there seems to be nothing else they can do about it. Your mind and your attitude can be absolutely crucial in other ways than just keeping you from panicking.
Okay. Well, that's all.
The horizon
really,
is bright.
Well, that's all really great information. What would you say to a patient or a person out there that is experiencing some of what we've been talking about today as to breast cancer? I know you keep saying stay calm.
Yes, if you're concerned about your breasts and you haven't had one in the last year or so, get a mammogram. There are places you can get them for free. I think Metro General Hospital had.
Matthew Walker?
Yes, there are places. We, in the healthcare professions,
So take advantage
we want
of,
people to get mammograms.
and you want people to
valuable.
stay healthy.
Right.
Okay.
And we want them to be happy.
Yes, and we do want survivors that have already gotten this horrible disease.
Because
So-
those are the people, in a way, that can let other people know this isn't the end of the world. This is not the end of your life. As a matter of fact, doesn't need to shorten
And
it
what
at
would
all.
you say to a woman out there that has had the experience of maybe having,
If someone has had a breast cancer and
Yeah.
they've had a treatment that left some stigma, as we call it, that left some bad effects or undesirable effects, could have been
Yes.
better.
that's a good term, I didn't want to say it, but undesirable.
Your body belongs to you. It is your most valuable piece of property. If you've done the best you could to take care of it, and the next thing you want to do is you want to enjoy it. And you want to find some other people that are going to help you do that. And
All right, well,
hang around.
Doc,
now.
that's our show, and we're going to have to do a part 2. And it's been
That would be
wonderful having
wonderful.
you on the show once again. This is Change Lives, where we love you, we care about what you're going through, and we bring you shows to show that we care. Change Lives, and this is Breast Cancer Awareness with Dr. Myron Towns, my guest.
And Habiba Chevalier, my
Yes.
friend.
All right.
I'm so glad to be here
Jesus,
with you, and thank you for this
Thank
opportunity.
you. We love you. Jesus loves you. Stay
he
tuned
does.
to more great shows with Change Lives. And Habiba Chevalier, your host and producer.